Thank you for downloading another edition of the Saturday Drop-In podcast from Highland Hospital Radio. It's just Tom with you this week, I'm afraid. Shannon, a bit poorly, but hopefully she'll be feeling better and back next week. In this week's edition, though, it's all your usual features. Some fun and games with a bit of Guess the Year, a bit of this or that, and of course a bit of Beat Detective, and we'll find out what's going on in your NHS Highland area. But more importantly than that, we were joined by a very special guest in the studio. Yes, Kirsty Mills, in to tell us about her new book, Get Well Soon. So let's get straight into the podcast and let's get straight into our interview with Kirsty. What do you do when your body decides it wants to destroy itself without asking your permission? Well, that's the question that's been posed by our guest today, who has just released her first book called Get Well Soon, documenting her life with chronic illness. Welcome to the studio, friend of the show, Kirsty Mills. Kirsty, how are you? It's so nice to see you.
Thank you. I'm very well, thank you, Tom, and I'm very excited to be here.
So, welcome along. You've written your book, Get Well Soon. I got it on Thursday, and I'm not a very good reader. I've said this before, but I really enjoyed getting into the book. Why don't you give us an overview about sort of the book and why you've chosen to sort of write a book and go public about your life?
Sure. I think I have always enjoyed writing. So I've been maintaining a blog for maybe 10 years now, just about the different conditions that I have as a way of sort of processing it myself. Something that my mum suggested that I do. And it got to a stage just after I turned 30, which would have been about 3 years ago now, where there were a few sort of bigger chunks to my condition. So, for example, I found out that I wasn't able to conceive naturally, and when I went to try and look at doing IVF, I was told that wasn't an option either. And obviously that was quite monumental and quite difficult to deal with, and I went into quite a low point. And as part of the way of me trying to process that, I was like, I'm going to write about it. And then when I had written all these sort of bits, I was like, well, actually, if I combine them together, it's actually something quite substantial. And I felt that maybe that could be put together into a book, which could then go out into the world for anyone who was going through a similar situation, or even aspects of things that I have gone through, could read and then take something from. So ultimately, that's why I think I chose to write a book, yeah.
So I'm wondering, are you quite a keen diary keeper? Because your story, or your health journey as such, goes back probably to your late teens. It was sort of university age, first year of university. And that's what you reference and you go back to in the book. You actually go a wee bit further back into primary school and talk about life then. So were you the sort of person who kept a lot of notes? Did you keep a diary? Did you record all these details?
Yeah, absolutely. I quite embarrassingly have my first ever diary was from 2002, and it was a Harry Potter, like before the film. So it was original Harry Potter diary, and yeah, every year since then. So that would have been maybe like 10, age 10 upwards. I've always kept a diary, but there's no groundbreaking wisdom in any of these books. It's, just like I had macaroni cheese for my tea tonight, or, I had a really bad day at school or whatever. So yeah.
So the story is, when you were at your first year at uni, you became unwell, and you started looking for some explanations, as you would, as anybody would if they started to feel unwell. Your story documents how difficult it's been at times to get a diagnosis, how you can sort of go pillar to post and maybe wait a bit of time. So I wonder would you be happy to tell us, what is it that you're living with? It's an autoimmune conditions, but there's other things that go with that. So what is your story from when you found out, when you were given your first diagnosis?
Sure. So I have a couple of autoimmune conditions. I was firstly diagnosed with lupus, which is an autoimmune condition. What that means is essentially your immune system attacks your own body. It recognises your own body as being foreign and then starts attacking that rather than like a cold or a flu like it should do. When I was diagnosed with lupus, I was 19 and then started on medication for that. A year later, one of the blood tests that I had to get because I was taking that medication flagged that my liver enzymes were high. So I was then told I had another autoimmune condition called autoimmune hepatitis, which is where your immune system recognises specifically your liver cells as being foreign. So unbeknown to me, my immune system was attacking my own liver, and it had done that without me knowing about it for an unspecified length of time, to the extent that my liver was actually scarred. So I had liver cirrhosis at the point of diagnosis. So those are the conditions that I deal with. There's a lot of medication that I take to try and suppress my immune system, and with that comes a whole lot of side effects, which are actually, I would argue that in some cases the side effects of the immunosuppression can be more impactful in my day-to-day life than the conditions themselves. You know, I have things like hair loss, so I now wear wigs. Also the infertility as well, there's a part of immunosuppression, which means that, you know, it's more infinitely more complex to become pregnant. The cirrhosis itself prevents me from having periods, has a knock-on effect on your hormones, your energy levels. There's a whole complex outreach of symptoms.
And you were trying to face this when you're 19 years old. The sort of condition, particularly around the liver, I think if you ask the general population about liver disease, cirrhosis of the liver, they probably associate that with somebody later in their years, you know, somebody older. They maybe even associate with somebody's life choices and their health habits or drinking habits that would have an impact on that. But you were faced with this at 19. How did you manage to find information that was targeted at you? Or was it a real struggle to try and find information about, you know, liver health and the condition you've been just diagnosed with?
It was really, really difficult. So this was 2013, which isn't really, you know, all that long ago, but it was a totally different world, I think, in terms of, you know, we didn't have a lot of social media in the same way. So you're spot on. When I was diagnosed with cirrhosis, myself, I was like, that only happens to old men that are on benches drinking, you know, which is obviously a very prejudiced way of thinking. But you know, when I was diagnosed, I was given some leaflets, and there was the British Liver Trust website, which was good and it had a lot of information, but there was nobody out there that I knew of who was my age and going through a similar kind of thing. Like, say, a lot of the patient information leaflets were perhaps aimed at, you know, adults or certainly older people who had maybe already had family. And I think that none of the information really addressed a lot of the things that I was facing, like that sort of sense of alienation from my peers at university, and balancing, you know, growing up and finding a job for the first time and trying to find a relationship and whatnot. That there was a definite lack of support there, which I think is, again, why I wrote the book. Thinking back on it, I think this is what I wanted to be available when I was diagnosed at 1920. Yeah.
And as well as that, you've got this diagnosis, you're a young person, the information's maybe not there. You're having to do this whilst also going through university, you're going through your degree, and you're having to do that. So you're from Nairn, you're local to us, that's where your parents are, but you're down in Edinburgh. I'm assuming staying in halls at the time, or flats and stuff. And yeah, so you weren't writing for a book. You were writing maybe a diary to keep notes and keep a note of the information you were being given, but also maybe just to write how you're feeling and get things off your chest. And is that transpired into the book that this is a way of sort of maybe not so much a coping mechanism as such, but is writing the book being quite cathartic and quite, you know, positive for you to be able to get everything out there and let people know, or you know, just explain yourself?
Absolutely, yes. I think firstly, a big thing that I try and do when I'm writing, and I hope you agree in this, is that I try and make it interesting and funny to read, or I try and maybe put a positive spin on it. Not to be dishonest about my experience, but just to sort of reframe it in a way that makes it easier to understand and accessible. And I think that having to do that and process the way I'm experiencing things, but then also try and write them in a more positive or grounded way is helpful. And I think also that just being able to work through my experiences, I guess, makes me think about them and reflect on them in a different way, and that's useful for me as well to think about. Yeah.
So we sort of know a bit about the background, about, you know, where you've come to. We'll talk about the book in a few more minutes. We'll take a wee break. Now, when I was reading through the book, music features quite heavily, particularly your love of 90s music. So therefore, I'm totally on board with that. I was wondering if there was a Spotify playlist that goes with the book. That'd be quite interesting.
Well, not yet.
So what we'll do is we'll take a wee pause. We're going to play a song that's mentioned in the book as a sort of an anthem for, I'm just going to get on with things. We're going to play a bit of Chumbawamba. Is that all right with you?
Absolutely.
Okay, here's something from Chumbawamba. And we're back here on Highland Hospital Radio. It's your Saturday drop-in. Tom Nelson with you this week. And we're still joined in the studio with our guest. It's the author, because I can describe you as an author now. Okay, get it. Is author Kirsty Mills, who's telling us about her first book. There may be more, we shall see. I hope there is. Kirsty Mills is here to talk about Get Well Soon. So, Kirsty, who's this book for? Who have you written the book for? Maybe one person, maybe many people, maybe public. Who is it for?
It's for everyone, so anyone can buy this.
Just in time for Christmas as well.
Exactly. Well, I think first and foremost, this is probably written for the 20-year-old version of me who didn't have anybody going through a similar thing at the same age and was really scared about the future and didn't know what this meant for any aspect of my life. I just would like to have had something like this that I could read and basically feel like, okay, it's not going to be easy, but it's not going to be awful. There is still going to be a lot of happiness in your life, and just to have that sort of comfort from reading it. That said, I think that anybody who is going through chronic illness or even aspects of similar situations I've gone through, so people maybe who have lost their hair or facing infertility or struggle with body image, body issues, there's something in there for them as well, my perspective on going through some of those issues. But likewise, I think that, and I mentioned in the book as well, something that I have learned through going through a lot of these experiences with my health is that nobody's immune to problems. Everybody's got problems in life. And I think it's very much about how you as a person deal with them and respond to them in your life that makes you the person that you are. And that said, I think that, well, I would hope that my experiences are interesting or can cause anyone really to reflect on how they lead their life and their decisions and how they react to difficulties. So yeah, everybody's welcome to read it, I think, Tom. Yeah.
But you're right, because although yes, you're specifically writing from your perspective of chronic illness, with your liver disease, with lupus, but that experience can be transferred to other people's issues that they're going through, be that health and well-being concerns or just general life concerns. It's transferable because of how you're sort of saying, well, here's how I've dealt with it, here's what I've done. And it's worth saying right at the very beginning, you have it's almost on the first page, this isn't a guide, this isn't you're not writing this from a perspective of this is a help guide, this is a self-help book, read this and your life will be made better. Mm-hmm. You're very honest about that. It's just, this is my experience, maybe that's going to help you in some way. You're also very good at saying that, it's not a medical.
Yeah.
However, in saying that, the research that you've done into this, the glossary at the back, I couldn't count the Roman numerals. I'd sort of ran out. I knew roughly where I was, but you've put a lot of effort into this to make sure that if you're referencing a disease, if you're referencing some sort of documentation or some research into it, or people who've worked in the field, or where you found your information, that's all detailed in it. So that's a very helpful part of the book as well. I mean, how long did it take you to actually do it? It's one part to write a book, but then to do all that effort as well. Yeah. What was that like?
That was quite hard work. I'll not lie, but I'm a geek, so I enjoy that kind of thing. But it's like doing a school project, right? You would always bookmark your references and things like that. But equally, I think to me, it's very, very important because, especially right now in the way that we live in this world, there's so much misinformation and, social media. Anybody can say anything and then it takes off and goes like wild, even if it's not true. So it's very important to me that if I am saying something in the book, that it's true, or as true as I can tell it to be. And that's why when I was referencing a lot of the information, so I talk a lot about, what the liver actually does, and some really cool people that have done a lot of hard work and research in the field of hepatology and liver disease, that they get the recognition, but also that I'm not misquoting them or spreading misinformation, because I think that's even more damaging than people not knowing in the first place. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Misinformation is one thing, but also just a lack of understanding. until we actually get hit with something like that in our own lives, we probably don't know a lot about it. And you speak about how there's some misconceptions that people, when they speak to you, be that's, friends and family, or when you're on the dating scene, which is a big feature in the book as well, that people make assumptions of, well, we've got great medicine these days, surely they must be able to fix it. The doctors can do anything these days. And also a misconception of the liver, you mentioned this specifically, where, but does that not heal itself?
Yeah.
And it must be quite frustrating for you over the years that people have come out and said that, not with any sort of impoliteness or being, rude about it, but the sort of lack of information must be frustrating to you, and having to explain yourself over and over again must be frustrating. Is that another way where you can just say, right, before you come out and meet me, before we have a date or anything, or before, we go out for whatever, read this first, and then we can have a discussion after. Is that part of it as well?
Well, to be fair, so I'm seeing a lovely guy down in Newcastle called John, and when we were going out a few months into the relationship, I gave him one of the final versions of the book, and was like, here you go, read it, and please tell me if there's errors. But it was actually quite nice. It was like, well, if you read that and you still like me, that's kind of all my flaws and everything about me. There you go, it's in that book. So yeah, it's a lazy way of getting around that. But no, I think that's probably something. I mean, I don't mind explaining to people. In fact, I quite enjoy explaining to people, and I see it as sort of a job of mine, if you like, to reduce stigma and to try and talk as much as I can, raise awareness of my conditions, and fight against this stigma of liver disease in general. But yeah, I think that's maybe partly why I wrote the book, is because wrote the book was I feel that I, as a person, am much better when I'm writing things down, because I have time to think about what I'm saying and properly get my true thoughts down on paper. Whereas sometimes when I'm speaking, like in this interview, I'll just babble away and say something that maybe I don't quite mean correctly. So yes, I think that a lot of people who I know quite well will probably read this and be like, geez, I knew Kirsty was going through some things, but not maybe quite to the extent that that I talk about in the book. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But how does that feel? Because you've opened up everything. I know you're saying to pass it on to your partner, but for everybody, it's because you talk about your health conditions, but going back as far as primary school and how your effort towards a project and the reward that you got for doing well in a project that sort of led you the way you have been with your education side of things and the priority you've given to that, but also your health conditions. Also talking quite openly about women's health matters as well. How has that felt in putting that out in public? How did it feel the day when you actually sort of hit send and it was going to the printers and people are actually buying it? How's that felt, that people know so much about you now?
Terrifying. No, I mean, because I am quite a private person. I don't really post very much on social media. I'm quite, reserved. I don't like drawing attention to myself, believe it or not. But equally, I think it's so important that we are open about health conditions and that people aren't embarrassed to talk about these things. I also think part of it is because medicine has been such a big part of my life now. The bar for openness is so low for me. Like I'm very open about talking about things. When you are speaking to your doctor about, your bowel habits or anything like that, and it's just, you become okay with it, right? And whereas some people might be like, oh, I don't really want to talk about that. I'm just like, oh, well, if it's going to save my life, I'm going to say it. And I hate to think that there are people out there that might be scared to go and see their doctor about something that we consider quote unquote embarrassing. So I think that if I lead by example, I guess, in a way in this book, and just be like, look, this is the situation, this is what it is. I talk about HPV, I talk about my own bowel habits and things like that, obviously not in great detail, but just if we can sort of normalize that, then I think that maybe more people will be less scared to go to their doctors about if they have problems, and that's got to be a good thing, right?
Mm-hmm. So yep, absolutely.
And when it comes to women's health as well, I think there is just such a lot of, firstly, misinformation, but also I think a lot of women don't know about their own gynecological health, and it just it really does frustrate me, because I just feel that we need to be talking more about these things and increasing understanding both within men and women of different problems that we all go through, I guess. Yeah.
Oh no, and you reference that the sort of the research into women's health, just in general, not about like conditions or illnesses, but just in general, is lagging behind some other more glamorous things that can go wrong with you. You know, there's some illnesses seem to rank higher in people's consciousness than others, and that's very frustrating as well. But within the book, though, it's I really want to focus on this part. It's funny. You know, there's a bit of gallows humour, a bit of black humour, you say yourself, which is reflective of you, but you make such a really challenging content. And you know, you mentioned there you're a private person. We should explain. I knew Kirsty a couple of years ago because you were a volunteer here at Hospital Radio, and we get a wee mention, which is nice. I didn't know how unwell you were. And I think that you reference this in the book as well, which is, you know, boys are rubbish at noticing these things. Absolutely. Did I know about your hair or anything? No, I didn't, because it just, you know, it just didn't come up. But so reading about it was really eye-opening. I thought, I hope I've been polite and friendly and understanding things. But what I enjoyed was knowing the fun side of you, and that so really came across in the book. And the way I would sort of, if I was imagining this as a stage play, if you were performing, or if you were doing it on television and you were going through the story, there's these little cutaways where you break down this fourth wall and you sort of turn to the camera, look directly at the camera and say, you know, you have a wee joke, or there's a bit of banter, or, you know, you're referencing how somebody would be on breakfast news talking about how, they're completely humble and, you know, they never think about, why me or anything. And you call them out on that. But you're like, if I'm sitting there having my crunchy nut cornflakes, and then there's a wee aside saying, I'm allowed to enjoy myself from time to time. I can have crunchy nut cornflakes. There's loads of these wee cutaways, and that's what I sort of imagine is you're turning to the camera and talking directly, or you know, to the reader. I really enjoyed that, and it made me chuckle. There was wee moments when I just had a wee laugh to it. And so when people are thinking, this is a book that it could be really quite heavy and doom and gloom, it's not. It's honest. Of course it is. It has to be. But there's a lot of humour in it as well. So when you set out to write your book, when did that come in? Was that from day one? You're like, I'm going to write not humorous, not amusing, but, you know, a light-hearted tale? Or did that come in later on? You think, this is a bit heavy. I need to put some more of Kirsty into it.
I think from the outset, I was set on trying to balance that out, because even when I'm explaining the situation that I am in to other people, I always try and lighten it up a little bit. Is that on me to do? Probably not. But I just feel that you are able to communicate better with people if you bring them on board, and a way of doing that is to try and, you know, engage them and make it, you don't want to go and frighten somebody when you're explaining what's going on with you. And absolutely, I think that for me, there's nothing worse than reading a really sad story and it's just bleak, you know. So I think that I felt that in order to get people actually reading this and invested in it and interested, you have to make it enjoyable for them. And to me, it's more enjoyable writing as well. Things that are funny, you know, trying to think of how could I reference this in a funnier way, or it just makes it a bit more memorable. And I'm really happy to hear that you think that, because for me, somebody finding my writing funny is like such a win. So yeah, thank you.
It really is. There's some really good similes in as well. So I would thoroughly recommend that you go and get it. I'm not being paid to say this. I don't read a lot of books. This is all about the second book I've finished in 20 years, I reckon. And I finished it in 2 days. So that's because it just arrived on Thursday, and I managed to get enough peace and quiet to sit and read through it and keep notes. And I'm going to ask her about that. So the book is Get Well Soon. It is available directly from Kirsty's own website, which is
www.kirstymills.org.
That's .org. Don't go for the .com one, because we reckon that there's somebody else on the other side of the world who's also writing books. I also observed on Amazon, under their health and well-being section, it was number 20 in their bestsellers at the moment.
Was it actually?
It's actually, I found that this morning when I was doing the graphics for the show, and I clicked on a few links. I was, wow, that's impressive. That's amazing. And I also noticed that you have a nice piece in the Herald as well, nice national Scottish newspaper.
Yep.
So I would certainly recommend doing it. If I've enjoyed this book, I reckon it's open to everyone. I'm looking forward to passing this on to my wife, and I reckon my daughter might have a read of it as well, to go over it. Well, Kirsty, it's coming up to Christmas. I hope you have a lovely Christmas. Are you up? Are you home in Nairn? Where are you going to be? Do we know yet, or is that you're giving away your location?
I'm in Nairn. I have committed to cooking the Christmas dinner this year, so for everybody. So that's going to be a challenge. But
A challenge for the people eating, are they?
well, to be decided.
Well, best of luck with this. I hope that lots more people get in touch with you and say how much they've enjoyed it. And I hope you'll pop back and see us again. It's been lovely to see you again. It really has. It was nice when I opened the door and you were there. And well, take care. All the very best, and enjoy your Christmas. And we'll hopefully see you very soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've been left to my own devices. I'm on my own here. You'll have heard in the news that there's a wee bit of flu going about, just a wee bit of flu, which has, prompted some changes, certainly across the NHS Highland area, if you're visiting hospital to come and see somebody, or if you're one of the staff members who works here. Yes, Shannon is not here. She's ill. She's not well. We believe flu. She messaged this morning. We were hoping that she might be able to do the show remotely, as we've done before, but unfortunately, she's lost her voice. Now, there's a part of me that's going, oh, that's a real shame that she's lost her voice, but there's also a part of, think of all the arguments I would win here in the studio if she couldn't talk. She wouldn't, comment on how bald I was. It'd just be, a little bit of bliss. But of course, we don't want anybody to be unwell. So get well soon, Shannon. Hopefully she'll be messaging in and letting me know how she's getting on as the show progresses. Hopefully she can give me some remote positivity and give me some support as well. Make sure that I'm doing all right. Okay, let's play Guess the Year. We've got some Olimers for you. And this song would be number 1 this week in chart history. God, there's a show in that, surely. Somebody must be doing that. It's Dance With Me tonight here on Guess the Year. It's Saturday Drop-In on Highland Hospital Radio. Olimers and Dance With Me tonight. I want to say, he didn't win one of those talent competitions. I think he came second in it. I think One Direction won it. I'm looking around. There might be a special guest who's already arrived in the studio, but we'll get to her in just a wee moment's time. But this is Guess the Year, so let's have a wee look at some clues for you. Right, in this year, the same year that Olimers was number 1 this week in chart history, we had TV debuts for hospital-based fly-in-the-wall docu-series 24 Hours in A&E. I have to say, I do quite like watching that. Death in Paradise, Geordie Shore. Needless to say, I don't watch Geordie Shore. Mrs. Brown's Boys. Yes, and that's back again for another Christmas special. How? And of course, kids' TV show, Rasta Mouse. Thoroughly enjoyed watching Rasta Mouse with my daughter. The most watched TV event of the year is the royal wedding of Prince William to Kate Middleton, which drew in 13.59 million viewers. Born in this year, YouTube star, and Shannon, if she was here, would be rolling her eyes because I always moan that I would never put a YouTube star in, but I've actually heard of this one. YouTube star Ryan Kaji, famous for the channel Ryan's World. So this is like a kids channel. He does toy reviews, unboxing and other activities. His channel has over 40 million subscribers, and his most popular video, where he receives a giant Lightning McQueen egg, nope, I don't have any further details than that, has received over 400 million views. In this year, sadly, people who passed away: Amy Winehouse, singer famous for songs such as Rehab and the Mark Ronson remix of the Zooton song Valerie. Steve Jobs, of course, co-founder of Apple, and famous movie star with over 54 theatrical releases to her name, Elizabeth Taylor, would pass away in this year. Now, I don't have Shannon to do the sport, so I'll need to actually do all the Highland League pronunciations and hopefully get them right. Bucky Thistle take the Highland League title by 7 points over nearest rival Devonvale. The Scottish Cup final sees Celtic take the silverware with a 3-0 win over Motherwell. Sebastian Vettel became the youngest 2-time Formula 1 world champion. And the 6th FIFA Women's World Cup is held in Germany, with Japan becoming World Cup winners, defeating the USA on penalties in the final. It's Carly Rae Jepsen and Call Me Maybe. I don't know about you, but I remember that song just being absolutely massive in this year. But what was the year? That's the question. But we'll have a look at some movies for you. Okay, the top 5 highest grossing movies in the UK, according to saltypopcorn.co.uk. Number 5, The Hangover Part 2. It grossed 32.7 million. At number 4, just ahead, is Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. I'll be honest, I don't know which number in the franchise that is, but one of the Pirates of the Caribbeans was 32.9 million. The In-Betweeners movie was number 3 in this year, grossing 45 million. The King's Speech at 45.3 million. I thought that was a brilliant film, all about the story of, was it King George VI? And his speech impairment. We're going to double check that. It could be an Edward, actually. Was it an Edward? Was it I think it was an Edward, actually. Again, royal family, not really my strong point. Also not my strong point, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I think that's the final movie. I think that's the last one. And that grossed £73 million in this year at the UK box office. In the news this year, as mentioned earlier, the royal wedding of Prince William and Kate Middleton takes place. VAT, is increased from 17.5% to 20% under the instruction of Chancellor of the Exchequer, George Osborne. In the height of the News of the World phone hacking scandal, editor Andy Coulson resigns. And it was a busy year if you enjoyed your voting and you liked elections, because you had elections for the Scottish Parliament and the Welsh Assembly, which saw the SNP and Welsh Labour win majorities, and the electorate would also go to the polls on a referendum on the alternative vote system. Don't know if you remember that one. The motion, however, fell by 2/3 majority. That was back when we did like decisive referendums, I think. Yeah, well, no comment on that anymore. Now, because it's Christmas time, I'm going to tell you what the Christmas number 1 was for our mystery here. It was a charity single, and it came about from a television programme involving Gareth Malone. This is the Military Wives Choir, and it's called Wherever You Are. Your Christmas number 1 from our mystery here, the Military Wives Choir, Wherever You Are. Well done to you. If you managed to get the correct year, the year was 2011. So Beat Detective is our little cryptic teaser quiz that we run every week here on the Saturday Drop-In, when we pose a wee question, and the answer to that is going to tell you what the final song is on today's programme. Now, I'm going to read it out for you, but if you'd like a wee bit more time to think about it and maybe want to go back and have a look again, the clue is available on our social media channels, so go and check us out on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're just joining us for the first time, why not give us a wee like? Please, it's so nice. Better still, you could drop us a message. Send us a little message if you've got a guess about Beat Detective, or maybe you want a song request, or maybe you just want to say hello, or send a message to somebody who's in the NHS Highland area, maybe a patient in one of the hospitals, or maybe the staff working hard over the festive season. But in the meantime, here is your Beat Detective for this week. So, your artist, okay? It's a 2-word artist, but I like to give you this, okay? We've decided there has been a ruling. It is the blank, okay? The blank. So 2-word artist, but it's the something. And your clue is this. This lack of light is not growing on me. This lack of light is not growing on me. That's your clue for your artist. Your song. Now there's some brackets involved, some parentheses, so it's 2 and 5. 2 and 5. 2 words and 5 words inside some brackets. Festive season. Allow not the tolls to cease. Festive season, allow not the tolls to cease. That is this week's Beat Detective. That is going to lead you to the final song on today's show. Now, let's pop into the NHS Highland Coffee Corner, brought to you in association with coffee. I've had my coffee today. I popped in at a popular drive-through facility on the way to the studio today. I had to come in a wee bit early. Met up with our friend Terry Henderson. We were having some, administration chats, some outreach stuff. We were going to pop out and see some people and tell them all about the service and, Christmas scheduling and quizzes, and yeah, it's busy. So I've had my soya cappuccino with an extra shot, just to keep me going. And also keeping you going is your NHS Highland. Now, you would have seen it in the news with the releases that came out. On Tuesday, NHS Highland issued new guidance on the use of face masks in clinical areas. As a result of flu cases rising across the region, NHS Highland have instructed staff to wear masks while in clinical areas or interacting with patients. And visiting in hospitals is still permitted, but NHS Highland are asking visitors to consider wearing a mask to help contain the spread of flu and other illnesses. Also, if you are feeling unwell, you're asked not to visit anyone in hospital until you're feeling better. So yeah, you don't want to be spreading any illnesses or stuff. So much going around just now. Obviously, our Shannon, she's not here today. She's off not well. My daughter was choked with, we think, the flu or some horrendous bug a few weeks ago. I know it's an old wifey kind of thing of, there's a bit of that going around, but there's certainly a lot going around just now. So if you, as much as your loved one and who's in hospital would love a visit, they'd also want to get better. So let's just stay home when you're not feeling too good. Also, as a result of the increase in flu across the area, NHS Highland are operating a number of drop-in vaccination clinics over the Highland and Argyll and Bute area. Visit the NHS Highland Facebook page for a full list of dates and locations. So yeah, just if you're on your Facebook, go just do a search for NHS Highland, get onto the page, and it's one of the, it was only just yesterday I think they put up the list of available dates and locations. And that's open to anyone who is entitled to a flu jab who's maybe not had it yet. So if you have received a letter previously saying you should come and get a flu jab, consider getting yourself along to one of these drop-in sessions. Also this week it saw the wrap of the 16 days of activism against violence against women. The 16-day period ran from the 25th of November, which is International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, to the 10th of December, which is Human Rights Day. Now, NHS Highland have put together a nice highlights package, a nice wee reel for you to see some of the events that have taken place over the past couple of weeks. And again, get yourself along to their social media page for that. Don't forget, if you are feeling a bit poorly this season, rather than coming along to A&E, maybe give 111, NHS 111 a wee call just to go over any symptoms with them. And of course, if you're able to get online, go along to NHS Inform and you can run through the symptoms there. So yeah, it's just a funny old time, isn't it? We're trying to be all happy and merry for Christmas, but there's all these wee bugs going about. So wrap up warm, take care, and enjoy some David Essex, A Winter's Tale. Shall we have a little bit of Christmas fun with a true or false quiz? Yes, we do like a bit of this or that. A 50-50 quiz here on the Saturday drop-in. And given that we're into December, we have got some true or false questions for you. It's as simple as that. So are you sitting comfortably? Great, I'll begin. Here's question number 1 for you today in our 10 questions. True or false? Simple as that. 50-50 choice. Elvis Presley's only UK number 1, Christmas number 1 I should say, Elvis Presley's only UK Christmas number 1 was in 1962 with Return to Sender. Number 10, yeah. Surely he's had more. He's had lots of Christmas songs. Yeah? Blue Christmas. So as Elvis Presley's only UK Christmas number 1 was in 1962 with Return to Sender. If you said true, you're correct. Yes, true. That's his only Christmas number 1. Question number 2. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was first created for an animated film. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, first created for an animated film. Is that true or false? Well, I can tell you it's false. Do you know when Rudolph first appeared? Well, I'll tell you. It first appeared in 1939 in a promotional colouring storybook created for the Montgomery Ward department store in Chicago. Yes, made up by a department store. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I kind of wonder because in 1939, and it wasn't long after that you've got songs like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer going about. How did that spread so quickly? Next up, Denmark is Europe's largest exporter of Christmas trees. Ooh, right, this is difficult because I'm kind of thinking, I know that there's other, Scandi countries round about there who do a Christmas tree or two. So the question is, Denmark is Europe's largest exporter of Christmas trees. And it's true. Belgium is Europe's second largest exporter. Do you know, I was thinking Norway. Is it still the case? Does Norway still provide a large fir tree to several cities across Scotland? I'm pretty sure there's one in Edinburgh, London as well. So yeah, I would have went for Norway. But Denmark is Europe's largest exporter of Christmas trees. Here's another one for you. Santa is represented by 13 figures known as the Yule Lads in Icelandic culture. Santa is represented by 13 figures known as Yule Lads in Icelandic culture. I don't know about that one. I don't know Icelandic winter culture. Probably don't know any Icelandic culture. Oh, except that they do the football chant, don't they, where everybody claps. You know, they do that one. That was good for radio because you saw what it was doing there, didn't you? Well, the answer is, yeah, true. In Icelandic culture, Santa isn't just one person. He's made up of 13 figures. The Yule Lads. I'm more into Yule log normally, but... Oh, here's a good music one for us here, right? Let's see if the music quiz people are enjoying this one. Your next one, true or false? The opening words in Band-Aid's Do They Know It's Christmas were sung by George Michael. So we're going for the 1984 edition here. The opening words are sung by George Michael. Is that true or false? I knew the answer to this one. Now, there'll be some people saying, I know it's false, and they're probably shouting at their smart speaker or device who the correct answer is. Of course, it's Paul Young. Paul Young is the first person to speak on Band-Aid's Do They Know It's Christmas? And of course the line is, it's Christmas time, there's no need to be afraid. One more little Christmassy one for you. On Christmas Island, the annual mass migration of the Christmas Island butterfly is described as an epic event. On Christmas Island, the annual mass migration of the Christmas Island butterfly is described as an epic event. I mean, I have no idea what this is. What do you think? Is that true or false? A butterfly on Christmas Island? Well, it is false on a technicality because the migration, the epic event on Christmas Island, is actually a red crab. A crab migration on Christmas Island. They do get better. Next one for you. Channel 4 broadcast the alternative Christmas message. So at the time where the King's speech is on BBC, ITV, probably Sky News as well, Channel 4 broadcasts an alternative Christmas message. Is that true or is it false? I suppose that's actually quite an easy one, really. It is completely true. They offer an alternative to the King's speech. Question 17 is, robins appeared on the first Christmas cards. Ooh, so the first Christmas card that existed, it was a robin that was on it. What do you think about that? Is that true or is that false? It sounds believable, doesn't it? Well, the answer, in fact, is false. No, you've been led astray. Robins appeared on designs 40 years after Henry Cole asked artist John Horsley to design the first ever Christmas card, which was in 1843. Now, I don't know, are you doing a lot of Christmas cards this year? Because I'm about to go and deliver some with my son. In fact, the whole family's coming out, and the dog, because he's a cub at the Lochardle Cubs, and the Scout Post is delivering today. So if you have bought a Scout stamp in the shops across Inverness over the past few weeks, your Christmas cards are on their way soon. Oh, here's a television one for you. In EastEnders, Den handed Angie divorce papers on Christmas Day in 1986. Dirty Den and Angie, do you remember that in the Queen Vic? Yep. In EastEnders, Den handed Angie divorce papers on Christmas Day in 1986. Is that true or is it false? Well, again, you're probably shouting at the device here. It's true, and do you know what? Over 30 million people watched the episode. And your final one for this week in our Christmas This or That, our wee true or false quiz. Fred Trump, Donald Trump's father, had the unusual middle name of Christ. Wow. So yeah, Donald Trump's father, Fred, was his middle name Christ? True or false? Yep, it seems hard to believe, but do you know what, folks? It is completely true. Frederick Christ Trump Sr. Well, we do keep it topical here on the Saturday Drop-In, you know. So there you go, a wee quiz for you, a wee bit of fun. Well, we still got the answer to Beat Detective for you. We'll have a few more Christmas songs, I'm sure. Indeed, the last song on today's show is a Christmas song. But in the meantime, can I have something that's not Christmassy? Just for a bit of fun. Yeah, why not? Let's do that. So your question was, it's we have to try and guess the artist and the song. So your artist is the blank. Your clue was, this lack of light is not growing on me. Growing on me being one of their more famous hits. Could it be The Darkness? I think it could. And it's the Christmas song. So it's 2 and 5. Festive season. Allow not the bells. Allow not the tolls to cease. Guy, you done that one well, Tom, didn't you? It is, of course, Christmas time. Don't let the bells end. Well, that's the end of this week's show. Thank you so much for your company. Danny's Disco is on after the top of the hour. But meanwhile, here's The Darkness. Cheerio. So there you go, folks. That's this week's show all over and done with. A nicely neat parcelled package of Christmas happiness for you to enjoy. As I say, hopefully Shannon's feeling a bit better and she'll be back with us next week. As I say, we will be in the Highland Children's Unit, so that'll be really exciting, speaking to some of the kids who unfortunately are a bit poorly and might have to spend Christmas in the hospital. But the good news is there's always Highland Hospital Radio to keep them entertained and play some music for them. So if we don't see you until then, have a nice week. We'll be back very soon with another Saturday drop-in. Until then, cheerio and bye.